I'm here to talk about public speaking, and it's so interesting because anyone who wants to attain a level of influence, which everyone desire, should have the skill of public speaking. And why I say public speaking, so I would like to answer questions. So when you have questions, you can start asking. But my journey to public speaking started. I didn't start out as a presenter. I didn't start out as a public speaker. It started while I was in high school. I was in a club called SAGE, Student for the Advancement of Global Entrepreneurship. And the first time I ever got on a global stage was okay, I started from secondary school stage and all that. But the most remarkable experience was that club. We had presenters, we had those who do production, and then just those are the two. So if you're a presenter, you are guaranteed to travel to Brazil, travel to South Africa, just travel with them because we do entrepreneurship activities and then you present it before stakeholders. You say, this is our annual report, we made this. They ask you questions. So, SS1, I was excited when my mom told me these people just went to represent Nigeria in Brazil and they are just back. I'm like, I'm going to join this club. I'm going to join this club. I joined Sage Club. I tried my best to be a presenter, but I flopped as a presenter. So I quickly switched to production and I was making liquid soap with the club. And then I would go up on stage and answer questions. But something significant happened in SS3 when I became the president of the club. And when I became the president of the club, we had the national finals in Tinapa, Calabar. And then after my team won first position under the social enterprise category, and we're now to represent Nigeria in US in San Francisco. And I was called up on stage as a president. Come and give a vote of thanks because your school just won the World Cup. And I got up on stage. I did not know what to say because I was not a presenter. So I was just doing production and management, but I was the president. And I looked at everyone and I said, thank you so much. We're so grateful. And that was all I could say. And then someone beside, there was a teacher who works in the FCT board. He was like, oh, thank the FCT minister. I said, oh, thank you, FCT minister. The other person was like, oh, thank the chairman. I was just saying, thank you, thank you. And I was like, God, how do I leave this stage? When you know that you have messed up, how do I leave? I can't remember how I left, but I know I left the stage. And then someone from junior secondary school, they came second, junior secondary school, Jikoya, and they came up and said, I don't know whether they've practiced or she has prepared because their school has been winning Sage World Cup for like how many years. So, and she came up on stage and she delivered excellently. I'm like, I'm never going to present again. Never going to try public speaking. But, you know, guess what I do for a living today? I speak. And when I started speaking, when I knew that my voice is my superpower, it has taken a lot of journey. There was a conflict whether to specialize as an event host or should I speak transformation speaking and training and all that. I'm like, will people not get confused? But I said no. I would speak and they would know me for that. And today I'm happy that I've been able to build both of them. I am MacAnne the corporate compare. I am MacAnne the transformational speaker. And last year I just delivered my TEDx talk. But why am I saying all this? Public speaking is simply having a message, okay, and having the courage to deliver it well. That's just it. Having a message, and everyone who is seated here, you have a message. You know, Temi Badri is a colleague in the industry, and she put out something on LinkedIn and also I think on Instagram. She said, "Oh, everybody says AI and Meta AI is doing everything. They know everything. So why should we still invite speakers?" And she said, "Why we still need speakers is because AI does not have that story. Your personal experience is still unique. So your story is unique. Nobody has your story. Nobody has our story. It is unique. Your experiences that you've gathered over the years through trial and error is unique. So no matter how we evolve with technology, AI will still need speakers. So like I said, public speaking is having a message and the courage to deliver it well. The first point of being able to really speak is first the mindset, knowing that it is a skill and anybody can learn it. It's just that first mindset. Because how did I move from the 16-year-old who stood on the stage and was saying thank you, thank you, thank you, to someone who delivered a TEDx talk, and a lot of persons have listened and have gotten a lot of feedback. It has taken consistent practice, knowing that I have a message. And so I'll just say basically, so the first thing is the mindset. It is a skill, anybody can learn it. And another thing that would really help, if you were to give any speech, any talk you want to give, there's basic, we can go into I know people will say, oh, I have, how do you deal with stage fright, which is like the major questions people would ask. My mentor Joyce Daniels will say something. She said that courage is a muscle. It's more like when you go to gym. You can say a skinny person can get into a gym and over repeatedly carrying those dumbbells and then moving to the heavier weights. You see that the person has six packs and abs have been developed. That's the same thing with courage. Courage is like the more you do things that you're afraid of, you are building your courage muscle. So in case if you're saying, oh, I have stage fright, start, but you need knowledge. So because public speaking is a skill that can be learned, you need knowledge. There are books on public speaking. But basically, three things you should have in mind if you're told to deliver a talk, whether you want to do a video content, or you're going to speak on TEDx, or you're going to prepare a training. They're just majorly three things, but these three things have subsets. Okay. The first one is to always know that you need an opening, you need the body, and you need a conclusion. Every talk, whether you're doing a 1 minute talk, some people will call it a hook, which is it's the open. Every talk, anybody who speaks, if you listen to them, these are the three components that make up a presentation: the opening, the body, and the conclusion. So if you're going to do the opening, you now need to ask, okay, who are the audience? Because there were so many things I could talk about. I could talk about clarity, I can talk about personal development. But when I looked at the audience, when he looked, this is quite impromptu, and said, oh, MacAnne, what can you talk about in 4 minutes? I looked at the audience. Everybody who is here because they are passionate about personal development. So personal development might not really fly for the audience here. But one thing everybody here needs is public speaking, because you have a message, you have a unique experience. You need to be able to share it to connect with your next opportunity. Public speaking has helped me. I've moved from a girl in Zuba community. If you know Abuja, Zuba is a very local community. But I've stood on stages in Egypt, in South Africa, I can't count, but I think about 5 countries. It's not like it's that plenty. But it has taken intentionality, okay? So the first thing is, when you know the audience you want to speak to, then you're now asking, how am I going to connect with this audience? Would a story work? Would asking a question, because the opening is majorly to gather people's attention. People feel like, oh, public speaking is, oh, I have a lot to share, and you just come up with the passion of having a lot to share, but that message is not delivered. So the skill place, the place where skilled is applied, is knowing how to deliver it well. So the opening, you plan for it. I remember when my mentor Naomi gave her TEDx talk in I can't remember the country, but I saw her. She came up on stage, and what did she do? She came in, okay, it's recording, and then what she first did was, if you want to be somebody, if you want to go somewhere, you've got to stand up and pay attention. And I'm like, whoa, that was the first time. And then immediately she came in, she started doing, everybody then followed. If you want to be somebody, if you want to go somewhere, you better get up and pay attention. And she said, this song was sung by the this, and that was how she captured everyone's attention until her TEDx talk ended. It was more like, so it's a skill. If you know that I need an opening, who are the audience? And then what can I use to start? So there are different things you can use to start for an opening. You can ask a question. You can give a statistics. If you're doing content, they call it hook, but it's still opening. You can sing a song like my mentor did. If you know how to dance, you can dance. If you have what else? You can even dramatize. If you know how to act, you can decide to dress like. I remember last year there was this public speaking stuff that Ayo Marose does in Lagos here. I don't know. I'm trying to remember, but she did it last year. The lady who was meant to talk about something related to law dressed in the regalia, and then she knew what and she acted first, and then she delivered her talk. I think she ended up even winning. Exactly, she won. So when you know your audience, you know the setting, then it will now determine the opening you would use. If it's young people, you can say, everybody get up, let's do this. So once your opening has been done, the next thing is the body. This is where you now enter the meat of your talk. And it's always good when you're giving the content, you either number your words and say, oh, number one, you let there be a transition. Don't just talk, talk, talk. So the first thing I want you to learn today is you can define what the concept is. So when you define it, then you now say, so the next thing, so always use this connecting word so people know when you have said one thing and then you move to the next thing and say, so the second thing is this, the third thing is this, the fourth thing is this. So there's connecting. Then that's where you give your main point. But the last and the final, which is also very important, is the closing. How do you close? Because sometimes when you've gotten the attention of people at the opening, in the middle, you may lose some of them. But your closing is very important because they may forget everything you said in the middle. So you have to ask yourself as a speaker, if I said everything today, what is that one thing I want my audience to remember? So for those doing content, they will call it what is your call to action? It's still the same thing. So you can now say, so how do you close? Sometimes you close, you can say, when I did my TEDx talk last year, I told everyone, repeat up. I think, did I say that? I can't remember how I closed. But you can tell everyone to give an affirmation and say, when I host events, conferences, there's something I do. I gather what the highlight of what speakers have said. I said, everyone bring out your phone. Let's say this, and then they say it. They say it. So you can decide to give an acronym and say, oh, but just make sure there's a call to action. There's a close. Tell everyone if you leave here today, make sure you do one, two, or three things. So that's the closing. When you know these three things, it would help you prepare for any talk. So your opening, your closing, and your conclusion. And your opening, you can either use a question, you can use a story, you can use a song, you can dance, whatever you can do to capture their attention. And then another important thing you need to understand is these three things, even if you have 1 minute to speak, how do you apportion the time across these three things? Know that your opening should have about 10 to 20% of your time. Know that your body should have about 60 to 70%, and your closing should have 10%. So that means if you're told you have 15 minutes to speak, you can do 3 minutes, 3 to 5 minutes for opening, use 10 to 12 minutes for your main content, and you use 1 to 2 minutes to close. Once you have this framework, it would help you, and then prepare, practice, practice, practice. No one ever becomes good without practicing. Okay. I hope this helps you when next you have any presentation.